Canada is a top destination for international students. For many years, it has welcomed bright minds from across the globe. These students come seeking high-quality education and diverse cultural experiences. The country's universities and colleges are known for their academic excellence. This has made Canada a very popular choice. However, the landscape for international education in Canada is now undergoing a significant transformation. The Canadian government has introduced a series of shocking changes to its student visa system. These new rules are set to take effect for 2025 and will reshape the entire process for prospective students. It is a new era, and everyone needs to be prepared for what is coming. These changes are not minor adjustments. They represent a fundamental shift in Canada's approach to international student admissions. The government is implementing stricter regulations that will affect every stage of the student journey. This starts from the initial application process and extends to the rules for staying in Canada after graduation. Prospective students will face new hurdles, including a lower cap on the number of study permits issued. The requirements for financial proof are also becoming more stringent. For those already studying in Canada, even simple actions like changing schools will now involve a more complicated process. These reforms are comprehensive and will have a lasting impact on students' plans. The days of a relatively straightforward path to studying in Canada are quickly coming to an end. The new policies introduced by Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, or IRCC, are designed to be more selective. This means that competition for a spot in a Canadian institution will be much fiercer than before. Students and their families must now be more diligent and prepared than ever. Understanding these new regulations is not just an advantage, it is an absolute necessity. The changes touch upon everything, from the number of students allowed in the country to the specific programs that qualify for post-graduation work permits. The system is becoming more complex, and navigating it will require careful planning. This introduction will serve as your guide to these major updates. We will break down each significant change so you know exactly what to expect. We will cover the new cap on study permits and explain why the government is making these decisions. You will learn about the new rules for transferring between schools and the updated requirements for post-graduation work opportunities. We will also explore the rising rejection rates and what they mean for your application. This overview is essential for anyone considering Canada for their studies. Being informed is the first step toward successfully navigating this new and challenging environment for international students. Why is Canada making these drastic changes now? The government has stated that these reforms are necessary to address several pressing issues within the country. One of the primary drivers behind this new strategy is the immense pressure on housing. The rapid growth in the international student population over the past decade has contributed to a shortage of affordable rental housing in many Canadian cities. This has created difficulties not only for students, but also for local residents. By reducing the number of new students, the government hopes to ease this strain. The goal is to create a more sustainable system that can support both international students and the communities they live in. Another key reason for these changes is the desire to protect the integrity of the international student program. In recent years, there have been growing concerns about some educational institutions, designated learning institutions or DLIs, not providing the quality of education and support that students expect. Some schools were seen as taking advantage of students. To combat this, the government is introducing stricter compliance measures for all DLIs. These schools will now have to verify letters of acceptance and report on their students' compliance. Institutions that fail to meet these new standards risk being suspended and will be unable to admit new international students. This is a clear message that quality control is a top priority. Furthermore, the government aims to align the international student program more closely with Canada's economic needs. The updates to the post-graduation work permit program reflect this goal. The list of eligible fields of study has been revised to prioritize sectors with significant labor shortages, such as healthcare, trades, education. By encouraging students to pursue careers in these key areas, Canada hopes to fill critical gaps in its workforce. The introduction of new language proficiency requirements also ensures that graduates are better equipped to integrate into the Canadian job market and contribute effectively to the economy from day one. These are strategic moves to make the program more beneficial for the country. Ultimately, These reforms are part of a broader strategy to manage the intake of international students more effectively. The government believes that the previous system allowed for unsustainable growth, which put a strain on public services and infrastructure. The new cap on study permits, set at 437,000 for 2025, represents a deliberate effort to slow down this growth. This is a significant reduction from previous years. The government has noted that similar measures in 2024 have already reduced student intake by about 40%. These policies are intended to create a more balanced and manageable international student program for the long term, ensuring its continued success and viability. For international students, these changes mean the application process will be more challenging and more competitive than ever before. The most immediate impact is the significant drop in the number of available study permits. A national cap is now in place. Rejection rates climbed to 62% in early 2025. Securing a visa is much harder. Applicants must present a nearly flawless application to have a chance. Approval rates for new students have fallen to 33%. Every document will be scrutinized more closely. Financial statements, letters of intent. One of the most significant procedural changes affects students who wish to transfer between educational institutions. Before November 2024, students could simply switch schools and update their information online with IRCC. This flexibility is now gone. Under the new rules, most students who want to change their designated learning institution must apply for an entirely new study permit. They must wait for a decision on this new application before they can begin their studies at the new school. This change adds a considerable layer of complexity and potential delays for students seeking to change their academic path while in Canada. It requires careful planning and a new level of patience. The financial requirements have also been tightened. As of September 1, 2025, students will need to show a higher proof of funds to demonstrate their ability to support themselves in Canada. This aims to ensure students can cover the high cost of living and focus on studies without financial hardship. Furthermore, stricter document verification is being implemented to combat fraud. Applicants must be meticulous in preparing their financial documents to meet these elevated standards. Any inconsistencies or missing information could easily lead to a refusal, given the high rejection rates that are now being seen across the board. In light of these comprehensive changes, it is crucial for all prospective and current students to stay informed and adapt their plans accordingly. The landscape has shifted, and the strategies that worked in the past may no longer be effective. This guide will continue to delve into the specifics of each new policy, providing the detailed information you need: inclusion of graduate students under the study permit cap, new responsibilities for DLIs. We will cover every angle. Understanding this environment is the key to successfully navigating your educational journey in Canada in 2025 and beyond. Preparation and knowledge are your most valuable assets. The most significant change to Canada's international student program for 2025 is the implementation of a strict national cap on new study permits. This is a major policy shift. For 2025, Immigration, Refugees and Citizenship Canada, or IRCC, has announced it will issue a total of 437,000 study permits. For 2025, IRCC plans to issue a total of 437,000 study permits, which represents a 10% decrease from the 2024 cap. This figure marks a deliberate reduction from previous years and signals a new era of managed growth. The government's decision to impose this cap is a direct response to the rapid and often unmanageable increase in the international student population that Canada has witnessed over the last decade. The primary goal is to stabilize the system and ensure that the country can adequately support the students it welcomes. For prospective students, this means that the competition for a limited number of spots will be more intense than ever before. The days of assuming a study permit was a near certainty for qualified applicants are over. A new, more challenging reality has set in for anyone dreaming of studying in Canada. The introduction of this cap fundamentally changes the dynamics of the application process. It transforms what was once a qualification-based system into a numbers game. Even if an applicant meets all the necessary criteria, there is no guarantee of approval if the yearly quota has been filled. The direct consequence of this new national cap is, honestly, a dramatic reduction in the number of international students coming to Canada. This measure has reduced the number of international students coming to Canada by about 40%. It has also eased pressures in rental markets with high student populations. This reduction in student numbers is being felt across the entire education sector. Universities and colleges that had become reliant on the high tuition fees paid by international students are now facing significant financial challenges. Program cuts, staff reductions, re-evaluation of institutional priorities. For prospective students, this reduced intake means that acceptance into a Canadian Designated Learning Institution, or DLI, is only the first hurdle. Securing a letter of acceptance no longer carries the same weight it once did. The real challenge now lies in obtaining the study permit itself. With fewer permits available, IRCC is applying greater scrutiny to each application. As a result, rejection rates have soared. In early 2025, the approval rate for new study permits plummeted to just 33%. Onshore extensions are expected to form the majority of approvals. This means that for every 3 applicants, 2 are being refused. This new, highly selective environment forces applicants to be exceptionally thorough. The margin for error in an application has all but disappeared. Students must meticulously prepare their documents, articulate a clear and convincing study plan, and provide robust proof of financial support. Applying to programs that align with Canada's economic needs demonstrate a strong likelihood of academic success and compliance with visa conditions. The overall message is clear. Canada is becoming more selective, and only the most well-prepared candidates will succeed in this new landscape. For many years, international students in Canada enjoyed a significant degree of flexibility when it came to their academic journey. The system was designed to be student-centric, allowing individuals to adapt their plans as their interests or circumstances evolved. Under the old rules, which were in place until late 2024, changing schools was a remarkably simple process. If a student decided that their current program or institution was not the right fit, they could easily transfer to another designated learning institution, or DLI, without needing to apply for a new study permit. Prior to November of 2024, international students could enroll at a new designated learning institution on their existing study permit, needing only to notify IRCC by updating the institution in their IRCC online account. Starting on November 8, 2024, the Canadian government implemented a far more restrictive policy that fundamentally changes the process. The government now requires most international students to apply for and obtain a new study permit before being allowed to change schools. It introduces a formal, far more demanding application process, a substantial new hurdle. Students cannot enroll at the new institution while their application is being processed. They must wait until IRCC officially approves their new study permit. That wait introduces uncertainty and potential delay that can disrupt academic plans. For many international students, the opportunity to work in Canada after graduation is a major reason for choosing to study there. The Post-Graduation Work Permit, or PGWP, has long been a key feature of Canada's appeal, offering a clear pathway from education to valuable Canadian work experience. However, the government is now strategically reshaping this program to better serve the country's economic needs. A significant update has been made to the list of fields of study that make graduates eligible for a PGWP. This change is designed to channel talented international graduates into sectors where Canada is facing critical labor shortages. Effective immediately, the list of eligible fields has been substantially revised, updated to reflect the 2025 Express Entry priorities. The following changes were made. 119 new fields were added: healthcare, social services, education, trades. Stricter language proficiency requirements. Language skills have always been important for success in Canada, but this new policy formalizes and elevates their importance in the post-graduation phase. The new rule specifies a clear benchmark that graduates must meet. Canadian Language Benchmark, or CLB for English, or Niveau de Compétences Linguistiques Canadiens, or NCLC for French, of level 7 will be necessary for university graduates. The ideal applicant is no longer just a good student, but a strategic planner who aligns their educational choices with Canada's explicit economic and linguistic priorities from day one. Prospective students must carefully examine the list of prioritized fields of study. Simultaneously, the language requirement demands continuous effort. Ultimately, these changes signal a new pact between Canada and its international students. Canada is still offering a world-class education and a potential pathway to a new life, but it is asking for more in return. It is asking students to align their ambitions with the country's needs. For students, this means the journey to a future in Canada now requires not just academic diligence, but also careful strategic planning, a commitment to language excellence, and a willingness to tailor their educational path to the needs of their new home. The new era of Canadian international student admissions is, honestly, defined by a startling statistic: the rejection rate. It recorded roughly a 62% rejection rate, the highest in over a decade. Nearly 2 out of 3 applications were turned down. Alongside the higher rejection rates, one of the most significant policy changes impacting applicants is the increase in the proof of funds requirement. Higher proof of funds requirements effective September 1st, 2025. The new requirements mean that students must demonstrate access to a significantly larger amount of money to cover their first year of living expenses. IRCC has intensified its efforts to verify the authenticity of all documents submitted with a study permit application. This move is a direct response to an increase in fraudulent activity and misrepresentation in recent years. Institutions must actively participate in verifying letters of acceptance directly with IRCC. For a brief period, students pursuing master's and doctoral degrees were seen as a special category, exempt from the initial study permit cap. However, this special status proved to be short-lived. In late 2024, the government announced a policy reversal. Starting in 2025, graduate students are no longer exempt. Allocations for graduate students in 2025 are based on 2023 levels. Graduate students are now included to manage numbers sustainably. This will likely lead to institutions prioritizing candidates for key research areas or those who have already secured significant funding. One of the most notable exceptions is for exchange students. Specifically, exchange students have been made exempt from the requirement to obtain a provincial attestation letter to ensure reciprocal study abroad opportunities for Canadians. The sweeping changes are not just focused on the students themselves, they also place educational institutions under a new and powerful microscope. They impose strict compliance requirements on all DLIs, making them active partners in upholding the integrity of the student visa system. As of November 2024, DLIs must do student compliance reporting and verify letters of acceptance. They face the ultimate penalty: suspension of their DLI status. Failing to comply could lead to suspension for up to 1 year, during which it won't be able to receive new international students. Students must factor in an institution's compliance record and stability, alongside academic reputation and program offerings. The landscape of international education in Canada has been fundamentally and irrevocably altered. The year 2025 marks the full implementation of a series of shocking and comprehensive changes. The most significant is the national study permit cap, set at $437,000 for 2025. That cap, combined with a staggering 62% rejection rate, the flexibility to easily transfer between schools has been eliminated. As of November 2024, most students must apply for a brand new study permit. The PGWP now prioritizes graduates from key sectors and mandates a higher language standard. Designated learning institutions now have a more onerous role. Schools must verify letters of acceptance and report on their students' compliance. Even graduate students are now under the national cap. Stricter document verification and higher proof of funds requirements. Every touchpoint of the student journey has been tightened and scrutinized. In the face of these monumental changes, aspiring international students must adopt a new mindset. Success demands meticulous planning, strategic thinking, and unwavering diligence. The first and most critical piece of advice is to start early. Begin many months or even a year before your intended start date. Secondly, your application must be flawless. With a rejection rate exceeding 60%, there is no margin for error. Third, be strategic in your choices. Research programs, institutions, and provinces. Consider high-demand sectors. Focus on language skills from day one. Don't wait. Aim for CLB 7 during your studies. Finally, stay informed and be resilient. Regularly check the IRCC website for updates. Avoid unofficial or outdated advice. Be prepared to learn, improve, and reapply if needed. This is a marathon, not a sprint. Be prepared, strategic, and persistent.